realize I muted myself. We are now recording. I am. I'm sorry I did not get grading finished. I didn't know that there was a cap on YouTube. And this last couple days, the family has been in a bit of a upheaval. So internet connections have been spotty, and I'm doing my best. So I will try to get that done as soon as I can tonight. You guys can email me whatever questions you have. Today, our final is going to be a little unusual. Not what your typical final is. It's not going to be a portfolio review. It's not going to be a test. What we're going to be doing is talking about the class, talking about your experience doing this online. And then each of you will be talking about which project you liked the most, which one you hated, what your greatest challenge was of the class, and what your greatest success was of the class. And then the last thing each of you will be talking about is what you're going to do taking this class into the future, into whatever art you're doing. And so the first time and everybody has to comment. So the first time you talk, I'll remind you, hopefully, tell us who you are, and also talk about what types of art you focus on, your medium, and or the media that you use, and 2D or 3D. Let's see, I'm going to go through really quick, and I will take roll really fast, and then I will go through, and as each person answers the questions, then I will mark them down, and we'll go through the next cycle of questions. It does sound a little clinical, but it ends up being something of a discussion. Okay, is Nicole here? How about Shu Chen? Sierra?
I'm here.
All right. Emma?
I'm here.
Amy? Are you here? Megan?
I'm here.
Excellent. Maria? Catherine?
I'm here.
Hanley? Natalie?
Here.
All righty. Michael? Yen Chen?
Hi, here.
All right. Xiaosheng?
I'm here.
I'm sorry?
I'm here.
All right. The microphone is a little bit low on the pickup. Tatiana? Cheyenne Moss? I'm sorry, Cheyenne? Cassie? Janae, you're here? Allie? Ashley?
Yes, I'm here.
Aubrey?
I'm here.
All right, great. All right, now that I know that you're here, when I ask the questions, what I'll do is ask for some volunteers, and then after that, I'll call in people to talk about the rest of it. And with 11 people here, I'm thinking we may divide things up a little bit. So unless you'd like to talk about everything yourself, what I definitely want to do is hear from every single person how they're going to apply this stuff moving forward. But if half of you want to talk about your biggest problem and half of you want to talk about your biggest challenge, we can split things up like that too. What would you guys like to do? Does everybody want to talk about their biggest challenge and biggest successes? All right, with all that vibrant feedback, I would like to get a volunteer to talk about what their biggest challenge was and what their biggest success was. And after 3 volunteers, we'll just go down the rest of the list. What was, who would like to go first? What was your biggest challenge and what was your biggest success?
Okay, I can go ahead. So I
Go
would
for
say my biggest challenge was maybe with the.
I'm sorry, before you start, could you tell us what kind of artwork you do and what kind of media you work with, and then launch into that?
Okay, yeah, definitely. So I'm Ashley, and I'm a photography major. So I mainly do photography work and edit pictures and things like that. I do like to draw, but my major and what I'm working on is, yeah, photography. And so for me, the biggest challenge I think was the styrofoam project, one where we had I forgot the title of it, but that one, I didn't like the sounds that the styrofoam made when I was cutting it or when I was carving it. And the next day, this just shows how weak I am. I had a sore arm just from carving it so much. But so I
hate the
think,
sound it makes.
yeah, it took a lot of work and I just didn't enjoy the medium as much as the other projects. So that just for me was a struggle, just not liking the material. But I think a success for me was I really enjoy all the vocabulary that I've learned and the artistic critique. Because like last week I went to an art exhibit and I really enjoyed it because I was like excited to go because I was like, okay, I have all these tools to better appreciate and understand the art. And so that was very exciting for me.
Hey, all sounds really wonderful. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I kind of do. I'm just going to ask a question. With those tools of artistic critique, is there something that you've noticed that previously you wouldn't like or you didn't like that now you enjoy because you have that vocabulary? And could you share that example?
Yeah, I think before I had these tools, I was very fast to criticize and just to move on. So that I would look at a piece and be like, I don't like it. I'm just going to move on and look at the next one. But now I stop and look at it and like ask myself these questions and go through the steps. And then I take the time to either understand it better and appreciate just understanding it, or that I actually do grow to then also like the art piece. So in this art show I went to, I really took my time with each piece and didn't just pass it by quickly. And so it's better able to start to like more art.
That's excellent. Thank you very much. I'm excited to hear that. And every once in a while, if I go to a show and I'm in a bad mood, it is very quick. It is very easy to dismiss a lot of work. But one thing that I've learned is that all of you put a lot of effort into what you do. And at the very least, as artists, we can appreciate that when we see that in somebody else's stuff. And so I'm glad that you had an experience like that. Excellent. All right, who would like to go next, sharing their biggest, greatest challenge and biggest success?
I can go. This is Catherine.
All right.
So my biggest challenge was the same as Ashley's with the styrofoam. I just was having the hardest time trying to figure out how I was gonna because I've never worked with, I'm not a 3D artist, so I'm a graphic design major. So a lot of my stuff is just 2D. And so I think that was my biggest challenge was just trying to put what was in my head that was 2D to make it 3D. That was my biggest challenge, and I hated the mess that it made. My mom made me go outside, and I have it was absolutely everywhere, all in my hair, like all over my clothes. So I did not like that, but
Static cling does not go away.
no.
Suck factor, yeah.
Yeah, so that was, I didn't like that. But I was actually like proud of myself for making it into, so I think that was also one of my biggest successes was that I was able to make it work when I'm not very good with 3D stuff. But what I've loved about this class is that I'm able to appreciate sculpture art more. Because in the beginning, like, I didn't, because I was just, some of the artwork, I'm like, wait, like, I don't get it. Like, why? A lot of it was just, I didn't know why they were doing what they were doing, and it didn't make sense, or
What media
just
do
like
you
actually,
normally work with?
what?
What media do you normally work with?
So I do a lot of graphic art, but then I do a lot of just like painting or charcoal and pen art.
Okay,
So I've
that makes
never.
sense. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Now it makes
No,
sense why
it's
the 3D would be so uncomfortable.
good. Um, so yeah, so I'm not in. I don't ever really. I've never done sculpture art or 3D art. So,
Right.
but this class has made me like understand just like how much work it takes to make these 3D images, because it's basically from all sides, not just from one view. So I appreciated learning that.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to put you on the spot too, Catherine. I hope you don't mind. Same kind of question I asked Ashley. Um, Going through that appreciation, is there something specific you can point at where 3 months ago you would have completely dismissed it, and now at least you really respect the work that went into it?
Yeah. So some of the uh, like I was quick to judge in the beginning. Like I've gone to different art shows and I'll see um sculpture pieces and I'm just like, oh, that looks like it only took like 5 minutes to put together or to think of. Like I was just so quick to judge because I was like, it doesn't make sense to me. But then I realized that just like how much work and thought process, especially when I was researching for my artist. Um, it was Jama Plensa, and it's just like crazy how much work does go into something, and I can appreciate that more.
That's excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Who would like to go next?
I can. Oh, sorry. I guess. I
All
guess I
right.
will then. So
Um,
this is Natalie.
okay, and what kind
I
of you?
so I'm a photographer. I can also triple the hate on the styrofoam project because it made a massive mess and it drove me bananas and my arm hurt. And I was tempted to take my husband's power tools to it just to make it slightly easier, but I didn't do that. Um, but honestly, with this class, my biggest challenge was my time constraint. Because this is a 6-week long block, correct? Roughly, give or take. So I got booked out for events last minute. So in reality, I maybe only have a third of the time. So I only had 3 weeks to get everything done, and I'm still trying to scramble to get everything done. And so I underestimated myself and how much I'm able to accomplish. Um, so
I'm really glad you
that's
got the bookings, though. That's really nice.
yeah, it is. But at the same time, it's really stressful because I had 1 week I was gone for a family event, and then I got a text message from a family member that said, "Hey, we're getting married." I'm like, "Okay, that's great. Like, when do you want to do pictures? When are you getting married?" And they're like, "Oh, we're getting married in a month." And so there was one day I was literally running. So I flew from Illinois back to Salt Lake because that's where my husband's from. And I was running on, I kid you not, 3 hours of sleep. I drove out to Little Sahara, did my cousin's engagement pictures, and then I had to have a week turnaround because they were getting married a month away and they literally wanted to send these out the next day. And so like I had to put all my schoolwork on the back burner and try to get this done. And so that took up a whole week. And then I had a wedding that yeah. My time schedule was a hot mess. But I would say my greatest victory is I just finished the last 2 projects yesterday. So the texture tiles and the wrapped cocoon. And I'd say my greatest success was I didn't hate them, because I'm not a sculptor by any means. And I honestly honestly had fun with the texture tiles and just working with the paper and getting hot glue everywhere. And like, honestly, the messier the better, in my opinion. But yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed that. And despite feeling like quite frequently I was back doing kindergarten crafts, like it was great, and it was a great form of stress relief, even though I have like a wedding and a couple of other things sitting on my computer that need to be done. But yeah.
All right, well, great. That sounds good. It sounds like the foam project so far is everybody's favorite to hate.
Yep.
My favorite part about that project is the noise it makes as you file away at the styrofoam. That kind of squeaky, scrunchy sound. I absolutely love that.
So did my
And-
dog.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Well, thank you very much. It's excellent. Now, I do see on the screen that another person joined us after I called roll. Who is that person that just joined? Because it's not allowing me to see the name until we're all done. Is it Nicole? Suchan? Maria? Hannalee? Michael? Tatiana? Cheyenne? Cassie? Or Allie? Okay, I only have 11 people listed that I know about, and 12 people are on the call. If you're the 12th person and I have not called your name, you will not get credit for attending our final. So you need to tell me who you are, because I can't see right now who's on the call. Okay, who would like to go next? Biggest challenge, biggest success.
Can I go next?
Sure.
Okay. I actually had the opposite happen with the foam. I really enjoyed it. I did make a huge mess, and my husband wasn't very appreciative of it, but I liked everything about it, even the noise. It was very satisfying with the carving. So that was my greatest success, especially the way it turned out. I really liked it. I really liked how the whole process of the paper mache. I liked everything about that project and the paint. Using the shop towels was kind of fun because I'd never used something like that. I've always used newspaper with the paper mache, so that was a different.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Your voice.
Sorry.
For just a sec.
Oh, okay.
But you've always used newsprint or newspaper mache.
So it never had that smooth texture, so I really liked using the shop towels with that. I had the hardest time with the time, but in a different way. I actually wanted to spend more time than the time allotted, because I really wanted to make them like a masterpiece, like you were saying. I didn't want to, be limited to the small amount of time to do each project. And so that for me was the hardest thing, is trying to make it look good the way I wanted it to look with the time limit. And then, yeah, I usually do a lot of 2D stuff. So that's probably another thing, is I have a harder time visualizing it in a 3D world, but it worked out okay.
What types of things do you normally do in your 2D world?
I paint. I take a lot of pictures. I do a lot of illustration stuff too.
All right, that's on. I can imagine because I imagine it's doubly difficult because you're going from representational to that abstraction, and it's not just any abstraction; it's like complete abstraction.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can imagine that would be a big challenge. Well, great, excellent. Okay, Tatiana, see that you joined. I have you down. Excellent. Right, who would like to go next? Tell us about the biggest challenge and biggest success.
I'd like to go next.
All right, what's your name?
Megan Ford.
All right.
So my biggest challenge was actually the wire sculpture. I'm not really good with pliers or metalwork at all, and so I found it really difficult to bend the wire. And so for me, it was really challenging to make a figure out of that personally. But I did enjoy it, and I learned something new. So there's a part of me that did like it, but the other part was like, oh, this is really hard. My favorite one was probably the cocooned and the block project together. I loved creating something new and wrapping with the cocoon. I thought that was very fun. And with the block project.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You were saying.
I was going to say, what kind of work do you normally do?
I normally do, so I'm an art and design major, so I normally do painting and 2D work. So this class was definitely a challenge for me with all the 3D projects. But I really, really enjoyed most of them, and I want to use them in future projects. And yeah, I think it was fantastic though.
All right, excellent. I'm glad to hear that you're not permanently wounded by the foray into 3D. That's always good. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who would like to go next?
I can go next.
All right. And what's your name?
My name is Yanzhen Liao, and my biggest challenge, I think, is the wire sculpture they one. Just it's actually really hard for me. Just sometimes I finally got a right angle, and when I do the next part and just use too much power and just make it a mess, and it's kind of hard to try to like control the wire that well, and that definitely is a really challenge for me. But the end result turned out really well, so I really enjoy it too.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think the most success I got from this class, I think, just have more observation in our work, because like 3D and 2D is like really different stuff. You can like see from a lot of angle, like to see like have more information other than just a picture. So I think that's the thing I do learn from the.
What type of work do you normally do?
I in a general art major, so I just try to do all the thing I can and try to figure out what I love the most. And recently I do a lot of like painting or the digital design. So it's a lot of 2D work.
So this was a bit of a departure.
Yeah, it's like really cool. And I really enjoy the sculpture thing as well. Just like when we carving all those things, like really cool to like shaping something.
I like hearing this perspective, because a lot of the times I teach people that are already sculptors, but it's always fun for me to hear from people like yourself who are focused on the 2D, and you describe how engaging, interesting, and different making a foray into the 3D world is, and that's always good to hear. And that wire project, I think that's going to be difficult for several people, because part of art is allowing the medium to speak for yourself, but with the wire, I think particularly, you're really focused on getting it to do what you want it to do. So how do you allow it to have voice? So I'm glad you were able to find that out. So excellent. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who would like to go next?
I can.
Okay.
For me, was easy challenging transform my 2D idea to 3D project. It was very challenging, especially with carved biomorphic abstraction, because when I start working with knife this project, it's like I imagine some idea, and it was a little bigger. The line is what not that I expected, so I need to transform it when I did it. And I understand that that's okay. It's not my first idea, but I can relate for my intuition, my feelings, my sense. And when I finish, I was proud my results. It was I think more interesting when it was like to the idea. So it's really an interesting process when you make something 3D. And also I realized when we learned about other artists that they spend so much time on it. They learn how material how you need to use this material, what is specific characteristics this material, and it really helps because when I start almost all this project, it was the first time when I working with those materials, and it was hard. But when I learn, when I see works other artists, I understand more, and it was very interesting for me. And especially last project, I realized my idea like for environment, and it was really good for me too. So I'm really happy that I took this class. Thank you. I know something new, something interesting, how to work and how to make something 3D that I never done that before.
That sounds excellent. What kind of work do you normally do?
Like drawing and painting.
Okay. Yeah, very, very nice. There are a couple of painters that I particularly like. One is Minerva Teichert, another one is Giacometti, and both of them are almost sculptural in the way they approach their painting by layering it up with all sorts of underdrawings and building it up to a point where a viewer can come along and see all the different layers and see how they put it together. And I think that, I don't know, I'd like to be inside the head of some of you painters as you go through this class just to see what's going on. Because I can imagine it's at the beginning it can be a little painful, and then at the end I think you guys are describing it sounds like it's almost liberating. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Tatiana.
Yeah, and also the artist Yayoma Kusama, she started with drawing her like circles or something, and then make sculptures about it for like some celebration. I see it near the sea and kids' playground. It's amazing how she creates those things.
Yeah, she's one of my favorite artists. So excellent, very good. Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
All right, and what's your name?
Sierra.
Okay. And what kind of work do you normally do?
I usually do graphic art and 2D art also, so 3D art's not my strong suit. But the one that I dislike the most is also the biomorphic abstraction. It's super hard to carve, and I felt like it got really fragile when you'd whittle it down to like a certain point. So I was always worried it was gonna break and like ruin all my hard work. So yeah, that was my least favorite. And then I really liked the artist reviews from like the one that we picked from the beginning of the 75, because I really liked learning about their creation process and then the outcomes and stuff, because usually all my reports I've done in the past are on 2D artists, so I really like doing it on a 3D artist. And I also learned a lot from like their creation process to apply to my own. Yeah.
That's excellent. That's really good to hear that you enjoy doing the research. I think one of the biggest eye-opening things for me, and what Tatiana was saying kind of ties in with what you were saying to bring this to my mind. But Anna Tsui is one of the guys that I think is just astounding, because he basically sculpts with garbage, and he sees things that nobody else does. He works with this new material and develops a completely new way of putting it together and using it. And he goes from, these little sketches on the back of gum wrappers, essentially, to make these huge installations that are like walking into a completely different world. And it's all with garbage. And I think that's astounding. So I appreciate the insights of both you and Tatiana about that kind of a thing. Yeah, and that's, for me, I don't know if you had the same thing, Sierra, but for me, I get to a certain point in the carving and I start getting like a mild panic attack, and I start getting anxiety, because although I talk about you have a conversation with the medium, by that point I still have a pretty good idea of what I want, and I start panicking about, well, what do I do if this breaks off? What do I do if that breaks off?
Yeah, that started happening to me.
Yeah, that is one of the most uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah, because I might have to redo my whole idea, or am I going to be able to make this one work? So yeah, it was definitely a challenge.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Who would like to go next?
I can go next.
All right. And this is Aubrey?
Yep. And I usually work with watercolor 2D paintings. And so this was definitely a little different for me, working with 3D objects. My least, or my, I guess, greatest challenge in this class, the hardest project for me was the wrapping project. And the hard part of that for me was like, I just didn't know how to make it not look like a bunch of stuff, that just didn't have a purpose. Trying to make it like seem like something that I'd put thought into. And so I had to sit down for like a half hour just trying to figure out, like, okay, how am I going to make this look like it's not just, trash thrown together. And after researching the artists and like really thinking about it, I learned to appreciate it a little more. But that one was just really hard for me to make look interesting, and like I don't know why I struggled with it so much, but that one was hard for me. And then the one that I enjoyed the most was probably the house that we did at the very beginning. And I really liked that we got to go to different environments and try and work with different lighting, and just kind of see how that affected, the pictures that we were taking and the mood of the pictures. I thought that was really fun to do. And what I would take from this class and what I really learned, I loved the tools of artistic critique, and specifically analyzing the pieces and finding those elements of design. That was hard for me at first, but the more I did it, I started to understand like why a piece worked and maybe why it didn't. And then also the work logs. I just thought it was kind of interesting to see how much time we put into each project, because usually as an artist, or when I do my work, I kind of lose track of time, and it was just kind of cool to see at the end, like, whoa, I put like 10 hours into this, and this is the end result. So I really enjoyed this class a lot.
That's great. Thank you very much for sharing all that. Excellent.
Thank you.
Who would like to go next? We have 3 more people to hear from on this.
I can go.
Okay.
So I think the project that I really, really, really did not like was the wire project. It was frustrating for me. I don't know if it was my strength or what. I wanted to go to a lighter gauge wire because it just felt so hard to form, and I wanted to form as, so many other things than what I did. And even what I did, I felt like it was just really difficult to get it to go where I wanted it to go. And my hands are really sore after that. So I didn't, but at the same time, I really enjoyed the project as well. It was a new, something new to work with, and I liked that aspect of it. But it was frustrating because I felt physically it was hard. I mean, I know I'm a little bit old, and sometimes my hands don't work that way, but anyway. So I didn't enjoy that one, but I learned something new there. The things I mean, there was a lot I really liked about this class. I work in both mediums. I mean, I've had a career for 30 years working in art, even though I was a trained teacher. That was my major, and I'm coming back to art school to learn a lot of things that I don't know how to do. And it's been frustrating in my work to not be able to know how to do it. And I felt like I learned a lot of things that I wanted to learn going back to school. I really have enjoyed learning about the artists. It was fascinating. We were in LA last week with my daughters and their spouses, and my daughter lives in downtown LA going to school there. And we went, to the Broad, which is and the Contemporary Museum of Art. We didn't get to go in because they were closed, but just seeing the sculptures around, and like other people have said, understanding the tools of artistic critique were really, I think sometimes we do things intuitively and we don't realize why it looks better to do it a certain way. And when you understand the tools of artistic critique, it helps you understand why sometimes intuitively you make certain decisions. And that feels a little backwards in my learning, because sometimes I'll be at a project and it's like, this just doesn't look right. I want to make it look right. How do I make it look right? And then you'll do something and it'll look great. But now understanding with those tools, I see why I changed them the way I did, because intuitively it felt right to do that, but there's a reason that it intuitively feels right. So that's been a really kind of a big eye opener for me. I love 3D art. I actually do a lot of 3D art in my work, and this just really accented and complemented the things that I didn't know, that it's helped me tremendously in my work. So I actually ended up dropping a class because I really wanted to focus purely on this class and not have to worry about another class. So I understand the time restraints, because I think that's a big thing. If you want to do it right and learn the things you want to learn, you really do need a lot of time. And that was another thing. That was one of the myths of coming back to school, was I thought, I do this every day, this is going to be no big deal. And the time involved is impressive. The time that people have to put into these kind of projects is impressive. And so I don't know how people, I mean, I have a full-time job right now just doing the work that I do. And I don't know how I feel like I'm pulling my hair out half the time because I want to do it a certain way. And because I enjoy it so much, you have a lot of sleepless nights. I feel like I've had a lot of sleepless nights doing the things the way I want to do it. So I think that's a big challenge for students, but it gives me a great appreciation for all of us who work hard like that. I mean, we're all artists and we're all trying to make things work the way we want them in our head. And so I appreciate that a lot more. Really enjoyed your class. The way you structured it has been very helpful. I think for online, it's a great class to take. I wondered how it would be, and I talked to some other people I live in Sandy, and there's a gal that lives around here who does illustration, and she's like, I don't know how you're going to take that class online. That's going to be really difficult. And I wondered myself, but I think you've laid it out very well, that others that want to take it online, I think it's a great class to take online. So anyway, just some thoughts there.
Well, thank you very much. And I like hearing about your journey about going from teaching, finding yourself in a career in art, and then going back to school.
It is not for the weary. It takes a lot of energy. I mean, I'm 52 and I am exhausted going back to school, and I've had full-time job my whole life. So this is, I don't know, maybe it's just also, you know, having to read, I've done so much with my hands that having to go back and read and write has been very, very hard for me.
I can appreciate that. You get in a certain momentum, and when you change the momentum, that's difficult in and of itself as well.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you very much. We have 2 remaining people to talk about the greatest challenge and greatest success, and that is Emma and Xiaosheng. Which of you would like to go next?
I can go.
All right, great. Just let us know what you normally do, greatest challenge and greatest success.
Yeah, so I normally work with like 2D art. So a lot of like painting and drawing and stuff like that. So the transition to 3D art was difficult just because I don't do a lot of it. So I think my greatest challenge was just like figuring out how to like balance my time and like figure out how to work with 3D art to make it look like something I liked, just because like a lot of times I would be like working on it, like something doesn't feel right, but like I don't know how to change it. So just like figuring that out was probably the biggest challenge. But my greatest success, the project that I actually liked the most was the wire sculpture, just because it was like I liked how it turned out the best, and like working on it was like fun because it was like something that like I could do with my hands and I could bend it and like move it, and like it was like felt abstracted, but it was still like solid enough that it looked like something that I liked, and it felt and like it was like a fun process to get to the end result.
All right, excellent. Which of the wire sculptors did you like the most?
I don't know. I think there were like a lot of fun ones. Like I'm not sure if I had like a favorite, just because like there were a lot of like really fun art or like sculptures that like came out of it. But
Were there any pieces that you saw that you really kind of hoped you could emulate?
I mean, not necessarily. Like there were like some that like I thought were like really interesting, and like there were a couple like, especially in like the examples and stuff, that like looked really cool. Like I loved like the example of like the fish that you had on like canvas. Like I thought that was really cool, and so I was like, oh, maybe I can like try something like that. And then I like started, and I was like, oh, this is not working well. So then I like tried something else, but yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you very much. Those are all really good things to hear, and I'm glad that I hear about a project where some of you really hated it and some of you really liked it. I think if universally everybody hated the exact same thing, they would probably say that we need to change something. So I'm glad to hear that you guys have so many different opinions. All right, Xiaosheng, what kind of work do you normally do? What was your greatest challenge, and what was your greatest success?
I usually do a lot of painting and some of like Photoshop or Illustrator, something like that. And biggest challenge for me is the wire sculpture. The wire sculpture is a little bit hard for me. That's I can make it like very perfect shape as what I want, and yeah, it's a little bit hard for me, but I learned a lot of new things from that project. So, and a big success for is the project. I mean, the project the most I like is the first project we did. Is that like little house we make? That's very funny and then very interesting. So I'm very enjoying it.
All right, excellent. Good to hear. So it sounds like with all the projects, everybody among everybody, at least every project was named as somebody's favorite. So that's good. That's nice. It's also nice to hear that everybody didn't hate the same project equally. That's always good. No, I appreciate these insights, and it's really nice. It's good for me to hear where different people are coming from and what kinds of things they find really help, and what kinds of things they find kind of make their brains hurt. So that's, on one hand, there's a little teeny imp inside of me that is kind of happy I've made brains hurt. But when that happens, it means that something's growing. And when you talk about your greatest success, that's something that really makes me happy, because I know that this class is hard, and I'm really gratified that everybody's had at least a couple successes. And that is really good to hear. Okay, we're going to go right down the line, and I just want everybody to say what their favorite project was and what their hated project was. And let's do the hated first. So which project did you hate the most, and which project did you like the most? And we're going to start with Sierra. Which project did you hate? Which project did you like?
I hated the biomorphic abstraction, and then I liked the cocoon one and the wire sculpture.
All right, excellent. Emma, which did you hate and which did you like?
The one I hated was probably the biomorphic curved, and then the one I liked the best was the wire sculpture.
All right, excellent. Amy, which one did you hate and which one did you like?
Well, I hated the wire. That was obvious. I don't know. I really liked the biomorphic because I've never worked with that, and I thought it was fun.
All right, excellent. Megan, which one did you hate the most and which one did you like the most?
I hated the wire sculpture. It was really difficult. And then the one I liked the most was the cocoon one.
All right, excellent. Catherine, which did you hate the most and which one did you like the most?
So I didn't like the carved biomorphic one, but I ended up actually loving it in the end once I figured out how to do it, and minus all the mess. But yeah, I ended up actually really liking that one.
All right, excellent. Very good. Natalie, which one did you hate and which one did you like?
Biomorphic one I really did not have a fun time with. Mess, stress, time, especially since I was pressed for it. But the one I really liked the most, which surprised me, were the texture tiles. I thought that was a really fun one to put together.
All right, excellent. And part of me finds that kind of gratifying, knowing that you're a photographer. That kind of makes sense. That's good to hear. Excellent. All right, Yen-Chen, which one did you hate the most and which one did you like the most?
Sorry, can you say it again?
Which project did you hate the most and which project did you like the most?
I don't know. I like the most of projects, so I cannot really give the one I don't like it, but I think the most enjoyable one is the structure and the skin they want. Just kind of fun to create a sculpture and then give a life to the thing you just create and have like put some skin to cover it and to like make it like alive.
All right, excellent. I love that perspective. Very cool. How about Xiaosheng? Which one did you hate the most and which one did you like the most?
I hate the most is wire.
Wire?
Yeah. And most I like is the first project we did.
All right, the house. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. I just as an aside, whenever I ask this question, I will work with some organizations that deal with the golden rule and every different path of faith. Like in Order of the Golden Dawn, the golden rule is do as thou wilt and harm none. The golden rule in Christianity is do unto others as you would have done unto you. And my favorite iteration of that, it comes to mind whenever I ask that question. It's W.C. Fields. His perspective on the golden rule was, I'm completely free of all bigotry. I hate everyone equally. And it seems like every once in a while I get a student where when they did it, none of the projects were fun. But at the end, they really enjoyed a couple of them. So it always reminds me of W.C. Fields. All right, Tatiana, which was your least favorite and which was your most favorite? You're on mute.
Sorry. I think the first project was hard because just it was first project and we need to create 3D project. And carved biomorphic abstraction was hard at the first, but I realized that this material allows me to be creative, that I loved it when I finished it. And the one that I like the most, it's last one, Rapid project.
I'm sorry, what was the last one?
Coconut and Rapid project.
Oh, okay. All right, excellent. Very cool. All right, thank you. Janae, which was your most hated and which was your most enjoyed?
The one I disliked the most was that structure with skin. Mostly just because my thought process, I just came up blank. I was like, what should I do? And of course, the image I had in my head didn't end up translating to what I made. But it still was fun. But yeah, maybe if I had done something a little bit differently, I don't know. And the one I liked the most was the biometric abstraction and the carving one. That was my favorite. But yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
All right, excellent. Very good. Thank you. Ashley, which was your most hated and which was your most enjoyed?
Yeah, so I hated the biomorphic sculpture one. And then I liked the house, the first assignment the most.
All right, excellent. Very good. How about you, Aubrey? Which was your most hated and which was your most enjoyed?
The one that I had the hardest time with and didn't like the most was probably the wrapping cocoon one. And then the one that I liked the most was the house project at the very beginning. I really liked working with the lighting and stuff. So, yeah.
All right, excellent. Very good. Thank you. Okay, now I would like to go through, and this is going to be the last question for everybody. And after we get all done, I'll talk a little bit more, and then that'll be it for our final. With this question, I would like to hear it from everybody. And first, we'll get volunteers, and when nobody wants to volunteer, I'll just go down the line again. I would like to hear from everybody. How are you going to apply this in the future now? Who would like to go first?
I can. So for me, as I mentioned previously, for me, the thing I would apply the most is the artistic critique, and just when I look at art or go to museums or art shows, that I consider that more.
Right, excellent. Will this help you in your work that you do as an artist yourself?
Good question. I don't know. I haven't tried it on my own. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that one. I have to think about it more because I'm more critical with my own. But it definitely helps me with other people's art.
Right, I really appreciate what Amy had to say about that too. That she was talking about how she was able to apply that to her own work to see, if it wasn't feeling exactly the way it needed to, what did she need to do to make it happen? And so I think that's a really good perspective. And even if it doesn't affect your own work, only helps you to appreciate what other people do, I think that's a win. So excellent. All right, who would like to go next? How will you apply this in the future?
I can go next. This is
All right.
Catherine.
Okay.
So, I like as I said before, I've appreciated or come to more appreciation for 3D art. And so, in the end, when I was researching, doing some of the other artist reviews, I really loved looking at all the different sculptures, and really using the artistic critique tools to figure out, just like observing and then analyzing and then evaluation. I enjoyed it more and came to more appreciation for how much work and thought goes into each thing. But yeah, so I would like to go to like more art shows with more 3D work now.
All right, excellent. Very good. All right, who would like to go next? How will you apply?
I can go next.
Okay.
Oh, this is Megan. So I really like the tools of artistic critique, obviously. And I definitely will apply that in the future with like kind of what others have said, the going to museums, working on my own 3D art. But I think the most practical use for what I've learned in this class, and I actually talked with a friend about this yesterday. So I cosplay a lot, and I really liked the biomorphic abstraction project, and I really learned how to carve things. And even though the wire project was difficult as well, I feel like those in the future, just because you're making many items and clothing and all of that, practically in my life, that will help with that in the future. So I find it good for artistic, for my artistic career, but also just like practical use as well. And yeah.
All right, excellent. Very good to hear.
Yeah.
That is not something that I hear very often. About 2 or 3 times a year, we get a cosplayer that's serious enough that this is something that they are going to apply. So I'm glad we can help. That's excellent. All right, who would like to go next?
I can go next. It's Sierra.
All right.
So I'd say like you definitely get new thinking patterns in your brain after this class, especially because I mostly do 2D art. And then also the tools of artistic critique definitely help. And I'm an art history minor, so we kind of use those a lot already, but like getting them really narrowed down in this class just help build upon those skills, which is great for analyzing other art and then of course applying it to my own art. So it was really helpful.
All right, excellent. That's you said art history, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad about that because I know we don't get a lot of people that are really focusing on art history, and I'm glad that you are going to be applying those skills to that. So that sounds excellent. Very good. Who would like to go next? How will you apply this? Okay, Tatiana.
Yeah, I want to say that skills that we get when we did our presentation, I think it's very helpful for the most profession, and that's great. And also, I have some idea in my head that I want to imply to life, and I think tools of artistic critique will help me with that project also.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who would like to go next?
I can.
Okay.
So,
What's your name?
Natalie. I've really enjoyed this class because with photography, you're taking something 3D and compressing it into a 2D thing typically. And so definitely as I've been able to very slowly make my way through this class and this projects, my realization of texture has become different, and even how I document it. And so I honestly think that's going to be something that sticks with me for the rest of forever. Even just based off of the last couple of shoots I've had to do that were for myself and my own business, I know it's something I've definitely observed a lot more, which I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't have had to dive in and get as messy as I have been with these projects.
All right, I like that. It's always good to know that somebody's benefit from getting messy. Excellent.
Oh yeah, it's driving my husband crazy. It's great.
That's awesome. All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next.
All right.
I actually really liked our annotated bibliography. I was very intimidated by it at first when I read the instructions. I was like, oh man, this is going to be so hard. But actually, when I kind of got into it, I actually really liked how you document everything. And I never had thought about that. You can use it in so many different areas of your life for studying or even just studying art. And that's a really cool tool to have.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you point that out, because documenting is really important. I've told you guys I am all over the place when it comes to the things that I study and look at. And it used to be so incredibly frustrating not being able to find where I had found something originally. And having the process of documenting really helps to go back, because you always are seeing things that stick in the back of your head, and then when you come back to them, you want to find the original source again. So that's excellent. Very good. Can I put you on mute for just a sec? I have to step out for just a sec. I'll be right back. All right. So don't go anywhere. This is really getting interesting. Oh, you have air conditioning. Okay. All right, I'm back. Okay, excellent observation. Who's next?
I'd like to go next.
All right.
So the thing that I'm going to take from this class is I really liked that we had the work logs, and we had a certain amount of hours that you kind of set for, each project, because I feel like there were certain projects where I was out of my comfort zone and I just kind of wanted to hurry and get it over with. But where we had a certain amount of hours that we needed to put in, I felt that the longer that I worked on something, the more I kind of started to understand it. And, it didn't happen with every single project, but there were ones where it was just really, difficult for me at the first, and then towards the end, things started to kind of fit into place. And so with my art in the future, I'm just excited to see, how just putting in the hours will make a difference in like how I'm going to be able to start to understand things if I just continue to work on them.
All right, excellent, very good. I think that a lot of the times people don't realize either how much time they're spending on something or how little they want to spend on something. And I appreciate that perspective when somebody expresses that it's important to spend the time. So very good, excellent. Who would like to go next?
I can go.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest takeaways for me, there were quite a few for me, but I really I love learning about other artists, and I don't know where to go to find out about the up and coming artists. Maybe I just don't take the time to search those out. And I enjoyed this in my 2D class as well, where we had a list of artists to research and study about. And I really loved being inspired by the many artists on the list. And I just wish I had more time to study more about them, because I think that directly relates to how we how we create our own art. We're, you know, sometimes people say, well, you're copying that artist or you're copying that artist. I mean, I feel like so many of us, we just are taking an idea and making it ours. We're changing it enough. Or we're just inspired by a concept or a medium. I think that's really beneficial for me to have learned about all the different artists and to see other people's, maybe I'm nerdy that way, but to see other people's videos on their artists. I love learning about how other people work and what makes them tick and what inspires them and what their story is. And so that was a huge takeaway for me. The other takeaway for me was doing my first PowerPoint. I've never done I mean, I've been out of the computer world for a long time. And so to get back on the computer and to learn PowerPoint was very beneficial because I feel like it's something that I'll definitely use. And also just the new mediums. They're, you know, working with foam, that was really intriguing to me. And there's some cool tools out there that you can get that make foam working a lot easier. And just, I don't know, that was fun. That was really fun to learn new mediums. So.
All right, excellent, very good. Okay, let's see, we have 3 people left. Who would like to go next? Oh,
I can go next.
Emma, all right.
So one thing that like I'll take from this is, I think a lot of times like I'll hurry through projects or I'll just like go through it and then I'm like, oh, that looks good enough, you know. So like I think what was helpful for me in this class was like having like a time, you know, be like, oh, I spend 5 hours on this, 10 hours on this, whatever. So then it kind of forced me to like slow down with some of my projects. And then like also just like focusing on also like a lot of the design and things like that and like planning it out before, because a lot of like the art that I do, I'm like, oh, this like I like this, and then I just kind of sketch it out or like this or that. So like having like planning and like sometimes like thought behind like some of my art is something that I'll take away from this. So
All right, excellent, very good. All right, Yen-Chen, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so I think I will want to try the wood carving. So I think that's one of the things I want to do, and also I think I want to try to bring the 3D design into the 2D design. Just kind of just when I painting or drawing, and maybe can think of more way to better presents the 3D design from it. And the way I'm thinking about is kind of like the Picasso. He tried to use a different view to observe something and then draw that thing in different angles. So I think I kind of want to do the similar thing like that.
All right, excellent, very good. And Xiaosheng, how will you apply this for your future work?
So I very like artistic critique. It's very helpful, and I learned how to create like own 3D works, and I will use that in the future class. So that's very helpful and useful. So.
All right, excellent, very good. Okay, now that's pretty much what the final is, what you guys have just done. So very good, excellent, thank you. There are a couple issues. Again, I promised that I was going to get everything graded a couple days ago, and I'm sorry, internet connections have been really awful. I will try to get that done the next day or so. You do have until Sunday night, midnight. If anybody needs any more time to readdress anything, retake a quiz or anything, please let me know. Email me. And let me know. I noticed that several people have done assignments and stuff and emailed me and said, hey, I redid this and that really helps. Also, please pay attention to where you are with your attendance. I see that several people have viewed the YouTube videos and taken care of their missed attendance spots, and there are a number of people that still need to do that. So as you are getting caught up, have that in the background. Listen to it well enough that you can tell me what it was about, whether or not you catch all the code words, and send those to me through the Canvas email, and let me know that you saw those so I can give you credit for missed classes. Before we go, does anybody have any last things to ask me?
I want to ask about attendance. I sent you all code words that I missed classes, but I have attendance 77%. Is it like because I was just watching these videos, or you just don't get my emails?
It must be that I didn't get that email, because I did get another email where there were 4 attendance things that were taken care of, and I took care of that. But would you mind sending that again, please? Because I did not see it.
Okay, I will send it.
Because you have sent a couple emails, and previous ones were taken care of. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind sending that again, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but it's watching the videos and telling me about them does count towards helping with the attendance. So yes, please. That's a very good question. Any other questions?
We don't have to have 100% attendance, right? It just needs to be above like 70 or something?
Above 90.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, if it's below 90, then it starts affecting the grade.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Alrighty. The last couple of things that I wanted to say is that there are a lot of different ways that people communicate and choose to communicate. If 200 years ago, if you were a Native American living in the state of California, and I'm saying, the geographical area of California, you would have grown up learning at least 10 different ways of communicating. That would include maybe a half a dozen spoken languages, maybe 3 or 4 different kinds of sign language, and then established languages that were based on knot tying and beadworking. And which are things that we don't even think about today. Can you imagine taking messages to each other that are made up of knots that you tied instead of writing? One of the things that I really appreciate about artwork is that as you produce art, you are communicating on a level that is completely free of the constraints of normal language. And I love the fact that people can communicate and hold a conversation with you 600 years after you died because of the artwork that you've left behind. And we look at that, like Göbekli Tepe is a really good example of artwork that people did 12,000 years ago that people today are still having conversations with. And I think that that's astounding. So there's a legacy there, but there's also the power to have a viable conversation with somebody that you may never ever meet while you're alive. And I think that that's absolutely fascinating. So it is really exciting for me to hear about the successes that you've had, overcoming the failures that you've had, and the things that you're going to take and learn as you move forward. And that is very exciting to hear. So I really hope that you are able to use this in your future careers as artists. And I hope that at some point in the future, I come across the work that you've done and have that conversation with you again. I'm very looking forward to seeing that. Again, if you have any questions or anything like that, please email me. And I hope that we meet again, either through the art that you make or in body as well. Is that will be a little weird after all this COVID nonsense, but it will be very interesting just the same. So I hope you had a good term, and I hope you have good success in your endeavors to come as well. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you in the class. Thank you. All right, that's the end of the final. We'll see you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.